All right, Molo Samulani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this. It's been a while since I've been on your screens. Another episode of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. You'll forgive me, folks, for not being as jipper and as excited as I usually am. I'm down with a bit of bad cold, as we are in a different location. I'm just going to wait for a brief second for the comments to come through, just to confirm that you guys can actually hear me, because I am trialing a new system that I will be using as I get back on the road. So I'm going to just wait for a bit of feedback as to whether you can hear me clearly. If you can hear me clearly, then we're going to get cooking on the show. And again, apologies for my slightly subdued voice. I do have a bad case of the flu, and no, it's not the spicy cough. So if you're in the comment section, please if someone can just send a quick comment saying sound is fine or whatever, and we'll get, okay, Fiona Meadows, thank you very much. I appreciate that quick feedback. Now, welcome to it. This is Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. I see you guys in the comment section. Remember, this is a live broadcast. Apologies for it being late. I am on the road at the moment, so I hope this new system will be absolutely tripper. It has been a while that we've been on your screens. That had to disappear for a while because of Passover or Pesach. That we Jews were celebrating. If you guys celebrated Easter, of course, I hope you enjoyed that. And shout out to the Muslim folk who are busy with Ramadan. Now, with that being said, a reminder to you, as always, on the show, you thought I forgot, that your only price of admission is, of course, to hit that like button. That's right, hit that like button whether you're watching the simulcast on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitter. I think we're live on Twitter today. A reminder to you that if you are watching on YouTube in particular, then subscribe to the channel. Help me grow my numbers over there. We're already surpassed the 41,700 mark. So we're on the road to 42,000, another milestone as we march towards 50,000. And of course, a reminder, guys, that we have a website. Now keep an eye on this website because it's going to become very important as we travel and hit the road. More on that much, much later. That's BigDaddyLiberty.com. Right, with that being said, enough with the jibber jabber, as I often say. How about we get into the morning news? Ooh, there's quite a lot to get into. All right, folks. Morning. It sounds like I'm in a toilet. It's coming from Brandon Sly. Apologies for that. I think it could be just the room reverberating the sound. Let me see if this will improve. Just bring that a little bit closer. Guys, it is what it is. Sorry about that, but nonetheless, let's get straight into it. It's been a very interesting morning insofar as you've heard me say this before, and I'll perhaps say it again. This country is a country defined ever increasingly by lawlessness, and it is governed, actually ruled at this stage, by two sets of violent criminals. The one are the paid to kill or contract killers, the hitmen in this country. And of course, the other is the seeming ease at which mass murder happens in this country. You remember we've covered this particular issue in the past where I showed you that mass murders in particular, that is the death of 3 or more people in a single incident, have increased sharply in this country. And Cape Town is where I'm going to take you. Cape Town is where I'm going to take you, where those two categories of killers struck over the past week and weekend. The first incident, of course, is a shock incident that happened in Oceanview. That's near Hout Bay, if I'm not mistaken, in Cape Town, where actually before that, let me do this. Let me show you how the spate of hitmen in this country has become super brazen. What am I talking about? Again, I do this time take you to Cape Town, where a community activist, one Loyiso Nkohla, who shot to fame, or I should say infamy, you remember in Cape Town with those poo protesters, the two main protagonists, and that was who Andile Lili, a former ANC councillor, and Loyiso Nkohla, who at the time was part of the ANC Youth League. That individual was gunned down, murdered, whilst in a police station or a mobile police station in Philippi. Philippi, of course, being one of the more violent townships in and around Cape Town. Those scenes, as I said, shocking and sending shockwaves around the Cape Town community, because if they can shoot you, or if you can be assassinated allegedly within a police precinct, then where are we safe exactly as South Africans? But a lot of you are probably wondering, who is Loyiso Nkohla? Who is this chap that I'm referring to? Here's a quick reminder of who exactly Loyiso Nkohla was and how he shot.
Dumping human waste at the Cape Town International Airport has landed former ANC Youth League leaders Loyiso Nkohla and Andile Lile in the dock. They and 7 others face charges under the Civil Aviation Act for endangering security at an airport. If found guilty, they could face a hefty fine or 30 years in prison, or both.
I mean, there it is, the character who I'm referring to, of course, there. And the scenes, as I said, at the Philippi police station, excuse me guys, my voice, were actually kind of somber, as, this was sorry. Ooh, yikes. These are the scenes, as I said, at the Philippi police station where Loyiso Nkohla, as he was conducting a meeting, apparently a community meeting, was beginning. Men stormed this particular meeting and he was shot dead. 3 others were wounded in the shooting. This is what that scene looked like. Again, I raise this issue because it goes back to what I said earlier on, as I've said, that this country is now defined ever increasingly by a brazen criminal elite, super violent criminals, who on the one hand are paid killers, contract killers, the hitmen, as I said, all the mass murderers. Again, Cape Town, unfortunately, being the epicenter of those 2 very categories of crime. Let me read this quick piece where, as I mentioned at the very beginning, in Oceanview, 6 people gunned down rather viciously in that part of the world. Let me just quickly put this on screen. Remember, guys, if you are watching this, please do yourself a favor and subscribe to the show on YouTube and Facebook. I want to quickly read this piece in The Independent, which basically wrote the story up. As you can see there very quickly, an image of the police having cordoned off the area there, and the forensic pathology guys are on scene now. The Western Cape Police spokesperson, Brigadier Novella Potera, said that 5 men between the ages of 20 and 50 years old were killed inside this premises, while a 6th person died upon arrival in hospital. Now, as I mentioned, crime scene experts are still combing the scene where these 6 men were shot dead. Detectives from the Provincial Anti-Gang Unit are investigating 6 counts of murder, and the motive, of course, of the shooting is suspected to be gang-related, with no arrests yet having been made. That's according to police spokesperson Novella Potelo. Now, I'll wrap this one up here. A lot of you are probably wondering, what do we do in the situation? If we now know that South Africa is a country defined by contract killers, hitmen, and on the other hand, mass murderers, indeed a criminal elite in this country who have no fear of law enforcement and do not care about law and order, what do we then do as South Africans? Because you sure as hell can't bank on a certain asshat of a police minister to protect you. So what do? I've said this once, I've said it again. We need to start banding together as communities, ensuring that our families primarily are who we prioritize keeping safe. And the best way to do that is more of you, the good, sober, sane, prudent individuals, the law-abiding citizens, actually getting the training, getting licensed, and carrying a firearm on you. That is the best way that us, the law-abiding citizens, can begin to push back against violent and murderous criminals in this country, to defend not only yourself, but also defend your families. Again, rest in peace to Loyiso Nkohla, and condolences to his family, because he's just another murder statistic in a country like this one, where seemingly murder is the rule of the day. All right, I'm going to move us on now to another story where I take you back to Durban. Now, we've covered this issue before. For those of you who remember, I showed you that seaside shack informal settlement where a lot of people at the time on social media saying, oh, there's no place like this in Durban or South Africa, we're told. There are no shacks that are being built on the coastline. Let me remind you of that particular video. So just to jog your memory. Apologies, folks. It should play in a moment. There it is.
Some people, lucky people.
Yes, that absolute pigsty of an area. And I'm sorry to use that expression because I'm very mindful of the fact that human beings live there. But this is the problem with South Africa. We allow these situations to fester simply because those who are in power, namely the ANC, and because of their ideology, refuse to protect property rights. That is what happened.
Yeah, that's right. The exact point I made back then is exactly correct to this day. And I did say in that same episode, that was Vuka Nazo, episode 125, that it is the lack of the protection of property rights in this country that has serious consequences that are often borne by the poor. That is a statement I made back then, and almost quite prophetically has been proven right. What am I referring to in this particular instance? That same informal settlement, that shack area called Dakota, which is in ISIPINGO, south of Durban, built right on the seaside. It's near the refinery, for those who want a reference as to where that is. That same informal settlement, where I argued, has been allowed to mushroom and fester simply because ANC politicians and the ETHEKWINI municipality refused to enforce the law, that is to enforce property laws. That same informal settlement found itself gutted by a wildfire that destroyed the structures in that part of the town. I want to quickly go to this particular piece that wrote up that story, as the devastation in that part of the world is simply heart-wrenching. And it's the poor, as I said before, who suffer the most. Now, as I said, the families affected by this fire have been housed in a nearby hall. You see images there of that particular fire. It must have been absolutely scary. After about 350 of those informal structures were engulfed in flames in the early hours of Sunday. The municipality said, while there were not many injuries or fatalities, the firefighters could only save about 50 of those structures. The spokesperson for the municipality, Ulindiwe Kuzwayo, going on to say that food is being provided and the municipality's finalizing assessments to determine the nature and extent of added assistance to be provided to the families. End of quote. There you see there the image of the Durban Mayor, or Kenneth, Mayor Kaunda, who himself is under a lot of pressure in this regard. Again, I want to just quickly revisit this point. It is no use allowing informal settlements to develop in the name of, oh, the poor must have the land. That's the nonsense you often hear politicians say. If you're not going to, as a municipality, as a government, play your role, which is to actually properly partition these parchments of land, make sure that there's certain regulations and safety precautions so that when a fire does break out, or if a fire does break out, that you don't have as many as 350 homes gutted in that situation, pardon me. That is the situation that we're facing as South Africans, with politicians who refuse to enforce the law and to protect property rights. You now have a situation where the very same poor, who they claim they're doing this on behalf, are actually the ones who suffer the most when incidents like this happened. And what makes it even funnier, and this is my final thought on this, because it's not funny how hard, it's funny in a tragic sense, is that these very same poor people who have experienced this will be invading that land again and rebuilding these structures, even though they themselves have now seen how dangerous this is. And they can only do this if law enforcement does not play its role and actually stop people from invading land in the first place to build these unsafe and often very dangerous informal settlements. All right, guys, we're nearing the end of the show. My apologies, please, for my voice. I'm seriously not feeling 100%, but I did want to be on your screens again as we cover this last story. Now, this story has massive implications for us as South Africans insofar as our electoral system, who and how we vote in the upcoming election next year. You'll remember, of course, that the Constitutional Court a while back basically allowed a grouping, various NGOs, who argued that South Africa's electoral system needs to break away slowly and from only it being dominated by political parties. What we see in that particular regard was effectively the Constitutional Court saying, yes, absolutely, it agrees that there needs to be direct elections in this country where you don't have to be a member of a particular political party to stand for office in order to make it into Parliament. The Constitutional Court then saying Parliament must enact legislation to reflect that very rule. That's, of course, what has happened with the Electoral Amendment Bill, which was before Parliament, now having been passed by Parliament, has also been signed into law by the President of the Republic of South Africa, A1 Cyril Ramaphosa. Really quickly, just go to that piece. It was written up by News 24 as a breaking, then it was breaking news. There it is over there. The Ramaphosa signs the Electoral Amendment Bill. Now, the presidency announced on Monday, that's yesterday, that President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Electoral Amendment Bill. The controversial bill would make it possible for independent candidates to stand in provincial and national elections. And it flows, of course, as I mentioned, from the Constitutional Court order. Now, the National Assembly passed this bill in February already amid concerns from civil society. Now, I'm going to get to that particular point because I've got comments from the Institute of Race Relations, the elections guru, writer, and analyst who Marius wrote on that in that regard. And you can almost see how Ramaphosa, having signed this bill, into law, is anticipating the Constitutional Court challenges to this particular bill, with the spokesperson saying that the president was satisfied that the bill would pass constitutional muster. Now, what is this criticism that I'm referring to? Let me take you to this particular piece. Having spoken to Marius Roy from the Institute of Race Relations, this was his particular comment.
Ramaphosa. The new Electoral Amendment Bill, signed by Cyril Ramaphosa this week, is a ham-fisted attempt to bring more accountability into our politics. While our electoral system needs to be reformed, the new bill simply complicates our current system and also puts significant hurdles in place for independent candidates and parties that are not represented in the various legislatures to even make it onto the ballot. The new bill is certainly going to face legal challenges from a number of quarters, which will also further see South Africans lose faith in the electoral system. This bill needs to be opposed and could result in some serious challenges ahead of next year's election.
And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Now, we'll cover this issue in a bit more detail on Liberty and Friends this Sunday. I'll bring the likes of Marius and other organizations on, because this has implications for us as South Africans. I'll leave the one there, only because my voice is absolutely, or my throat is absolutely on fire right now. But But yeah, it is enough for me to say this. The road to removing ANC politicians from government is dependent on a few factors, one of which is direct elections. The idea that you, the faith, flag, family, and freedom type citizen, are able to vote in directly the candidate who you think represents your community best. And this does not have to happen through the lens of party politics, the very same party politics in this country, which we all know is super toxic. Don't believe me? Just have a look at any of the coalition governments at the moment, or have a look at the news articles of these various political parties bickering amongst each other. That system, to break us free from that system, really does require that we amend our electoral laws to allow for more diversity insofar as how we elect the people who represent us into power. As I said, we'll have this conversation in greater detail on this Sunday's episode of Liberty and Friends. All right, folks, that's it for this morning's show of Vuka Nazo. Apologies for it being late, and apologies for my voice. I'm just down with a cold at the moment. Remember, please, on your way out, do me a big favor and hit that like button, please, and help the show spread. The algorithm often allows the show to spread when you do that. And of course, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Please visit our website at bigdaddyliberty.com, where of course you'll find more information around the work that I'll be doing in the next couple of months. Oh, yeah, nice planning happening in the background. It's why I'm here in Joburg, actually, to build some support for that. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow again, bright and early, pre-recorded episode this time, so it'll be smoother, of Vuka Nazo.